All right, we'll get started and take a moment to scan the minutes, please.
The minutes do not include DHHS. I decided if I did DHHS, I couldn't do the spreadsheet for today.
So these are partial minutes because HHS is not yet included. So we won't vote on them. We'll just, if we see any correction, we'll mention. I would add something about Fish and Game that they need to. Oh no. Okay, you have it here. You have it here. Okay, very good. Anybody find anything? Nope. No. Okay, go. All right, we will finish it when it's ready next time. Agenda. So today we're going to hear from the General Court, and we're also going to hear from DAS. And then we've received some feedback from follow-up from DHHS. We can talk about that. And then we'll talk about a little bit about what would we want to put in a final report and or bill. Okay. So welcome to the General Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Terrence Poff. I am the Chief Operating Officer for the General Court of New Hampshire. And with me is...
I'm Jennifer Becker, the Director of the General Court Administrative Office.
We're pleased to be before you. It was 5 years ago that we had the privilege to be before you, and our good friend Norm Major was chairing at the time. And unfortunately, his passing, but he had a good long life and provided a lot of service for the state of New Hampshire over those years. Appreciate him. So we're here to review what we have for limited dedicated funds and to answer any of the questions that you have relative to those few dedicated funds that we do have.
And I have a report from you dated August 15th, right?
Yep, that's correct. It should be before each one of you.
Okay. And in our big book, let's see where you are.
Should be on page 3 on the front end of the book, I believe.
Page 3. There it is. Joint Legislative Historical Fund. All right, why don't you start with that?
Okay, that's the Joint Legislative Historical Committee is the committee that runs and is responsible for all the portraits and for really their charge is beyond just the State House, actually. It's for a lot of what the state owns for those. But we have a revenue source that comes in directly from the general court and, well, from the general fund and comes directly into that as $25,000 a year. And they utilize that through their, for the tasks assigned to the Historical Committee, which is made up of House and Senate members.
I can expand on the revenue. I can expand on the revenue just a bit. We also have the visitor center, any goods that are sold out of the visitor center, any revenue out of there in excess of $50,000 gets transferred to the Joint Legislative Historical Fund at the end of every fiscal year.
Are those funds used for anything more than buying the goods?
No, they're not.
I see. Okay. So it looks like you're building up a bit here. Started at 200,000, now it's over 3. Although I guess this last year you had a big expense.
Yeah, and it cycles because we do some construction within the, and we do all of the portrait renewals, you know, and it depends on what we're doing. And sometimes we charge to those funds things within the Hall of Flags itself. We actually pay for some of it within the chambers of each of the House chambers to do some work there. But a lot of it's the portrait maintenance. And when we did the renovation within the House chamber, those very large portraits, That was a heavy expense at that time, but they needed it. They cleaned it up, and actually, I think one of the portraits went from blue to black, their suits, because it was so smoke infiltrated. So it really made a big difference, and that's what we used some of those dollars for.
Did you clean those murals in the Senate, or was that
Yes,
part
those were all,
of
that was all part of it as well during the 2018 renovation of the Senate
Yeah.
chamber. And that was done with a buttermilk mixture and basically Q-tips. That's how that's tedious work that
Yeah,
went
I
through
watched
with
the
all
guy
that.
do it. That's
And it was,
crazy.
we actually housed the people in the Upper Walker House for that so that we wouldn't have to pay the expense going back and forth to Maine because they were out of Maine that did it, the technicians. But it was an interesting mixture that Faulkner had left with the murals on how to clean those because Barry Faulkner is the one that designed those, and he was famous for camouflage actually. But those murals themselves were he left the method of cleaning with them. And you have to remember back in the day in those Senate chambers and in the House chambers they used to smoke, and they smoked pretty heavily. I mean that's so that when we did the initial cleanup of the House chamber first before the Senate, it was dramatic the difference in how after we cleaned that. But we never did do on the initial 2003 and 2004 cleanup of the House chamber. We never did the portraits because we didn't have the dollars for it at that time. But we did the portraits in the second renewal and renovation of that space, and dramatic difference.
Any questions? Yes, Senator Rosenwald.
What about the flags in the Hall of Flags? How well preserved are those cases? I seem to remember going back some, I don't know, 15, 20 years, that there was discussion about making them more archivally preserved. And it was a lot of money, so we didn't do it. But those are precious artifacts of New Hampshire history. And I'm just wondering, what is the projection on how well those flags will continue to hold up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the question, Senator. The flag preservation and stabilization has been an ongoing discussion for years and years and years on what do we do with them? Do we take them out? Do we back them? Do we put replicas in there? Do we preserve them by hiding them away from the general public? In 1866, when we received those flags post-Civil War, the General Court received them and made a promise to the people that were actually holding those, having the staffs of those flags in their hands and had brought them back from the regiments, that we would keep them displayed. And we've been true to that for all these years. And I've been to other state houses, as many of you have, and seen them and seen what they've done with replicas. It's nothing like what we have. They've actually removed them completely and just put digital images up in some state houses. This is nothing that I think this general court's, and I'll never advocate for that from my position for sure. But the preservation of those flags is, and how we're monitoring them is we're doing annual high definition digital images of them, taken at the same time of year, the same time, just look at there was any degradation of those flags whatsoever. There's no textiles in the bottom. We've had folks come in and look at them to see if there's any real degradation from it. The only thing has been a little bit of fading over the years since the original pictures were there, and not recent. That was from the original time in 1866 when we took them and they had images of them. And then we looked, they weren't color at the time, but you could see the difference in the definition of the flags. So we're looking at that. Some of them now we've actually seen there's no textiles in there, but that's not a sealed case. That's just a case that's not sealed with anything. It's not a gas-filled case. But that display tells the story to every fourth grade kid that comes through that place and every visitor that comes through our state house. And I think it's the it is the key of walking through those front doors. So the stabilization of those isn't really necessary right now because they are what they are. If you look at some of the original pictures, that's battle torn up flags. That's not from degradation from sitting there. There is always a concern because they're silk and there's some weight to them. And as they're hanging on a staff, but quite honestly, if you go to Europe, there's still flags in some of those churches and areas from centuries ago that are still standing on their own staffs. So if you look at it, certain things have an end to life, and some of those flags may have an end to life and may drop. That's just a fact that they may do that someday. I think it's not outside of what we've made a promise to those original people to keep those things in place and do that. And so we're monitoring, we're channeling it, and we're looking at that. And And quite frankly, if there's something happens, we'll address it as it happens, but we are cognizant about looking at those flags and keeping them posted the way they are on those stats.
Question.
Well, you're the chairman now, it looks like, so.
Oh, all right.
He asked me to do it. I
Oh, you-
forgot. I'm sorry. I've had
Okay,
6
then she's the
letters.
chairman now.
Mike,
Button, yeah.
thank you. Question?
I have one. It's not, it's somewhat related to that, but I go around several small towns have union cemeteries. And somebody said, why are they all union cemeteries? I said, my guess is that before the Civil War, when you died, you got buried on the family farm. A lot of the young men that went to the Civil War and died were sent back home to their town, and they didn't have family. So do you know if the federal government paid for all these union cemeteries for these Civil War casualties that didn't have family in the towns?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Representative Weil, I don't have any working knowledge of whether those union cemeteries are federally funded or not. I can't even speculate, honestly.
All right, that would.
But I agree with what your concept is, that it was the family farms and how they popped up all over the place.
Thank you.
I could say in Lebanon, we have a very old cemetery, and has been a volunteer effort to find the graves of the people that came from the Civil War and to restore them and put a little flag up. So.
That's laudable work. I appreciate you doing that, and I'm sure
And
that
that's,
citizens
I was
do
just
with that.
peripheral to that, but
Okay. All right, great. Sorry about that. Carol just had her appendix out, and that was
whoa.
the,
You all right?
yeah, she's fine. That was the doctor saying it's all over, so.
Good.
She'll be
all
ready
over
to
in a
go.
good way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she'll be ready to go home in an hour and a half. So,
All
you know,
right.
they don't even keep them overnight anymore.
she's
It's
gonna
great.
hurt for a while.
Yeah, they said don't lift more than 10 pounds. So, all right. Anyways, let's go on.
All right.
So,
So we've just finishing, the Legislative Historical Fund.
okay, so I didn't miss much. Any other questions on that? No? All right, let's go on to the Visitor Center.
So as I mentioned earlier, the Visitor Center, revenue for the Visitor Center revolving fund is strictly revenue that comes in through the Visitors Center souvenir sales. And they purchase the merchandise that's sold out of the Visitor Center. Anything that at the end of the fiscal year, anything in excess of 50,000, if their net revenue is in excess of 50,000, that money, those monies get transferred back to the Joint Legislative Historical Commission.
But there haven't been any such transfers in a long time. Is that right?
Nope, there have been. The revenue that you see, if you flip back to the Joint Legislative Historical Fund, the revenue that you see for those years, a lion's share of that is monies from the Visitor Center Revolving Fund.
Oh,
The way that it's reported on this is we just reduce the revenue to equal the expense so that the account ends up at $50,000 every year.
it's a little confusing.
It is a confusing, I agree, it is
It would
confusing.
appear that every year that the ending balance is 50,000, there was a transfer.
Correct, that is correct, yes.
Oh, I see.
So for fiscal '25, for instance, I believe the transfer was, or I know the transfer was $34,069.
But how can it be 34 when the revenue is only 18?
The revenue was, yeah, the revenue was reduced by $34,000 and transferred to meet the expenses, which were 18,000, so that we can net out the account to 50,000 at the end of the year. The transfer doesn't show on the Visitor Center Revolving Fund side. It shows on the Joint Legislative Historical Fund side.
Yeah, go ahead.
My
Senator.
suggestion would be in the description,
Mhm.
when you send it forward, at least to note that, what the transfers were,
For that fiscal year.
or do it a different way.
Do it, yep.
I'll believe.
I understand. I understand. We can do that. We can note that in the narrative.
Yeah, revenue should be actual revenue, I think. And then expenses can be,
Could include the transfer.
could include the transfer, yeah.
So, I don't know, and Dana, maybe I'll look to you for guidance on this. Should we perhaps indicate the transfer under other sources and uses?
Yeah, you could. I mean, we've talked about this. We have several of these funds that have this kind of baked in transfer. We talked about it with Fish and Game at last meeting, so we can talk offline about what's the best way to present
To
it. But
okay.
you definitely can note it in the narrative if
Okay.
nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah, because somebody would want to look at this fund and say, how much are you actually selling per year, right?
Right.
And it's not here, so, okay. Other questions? Okay, next. Oh, the big bucks.
So our special legislative account, this is unique to the general court, and it's established as a stability account for the legislative branch. You folks are here for 6 months to do all your job constitutionally, and this is a set of resources available to accomplish those and accomplish any other needs of the general court itself, facilities and otherwise.
So how come big expense in 21, 25 and nothing 22, 23, 24?
Those are capital projects. That was the 1.8 was the plaza job for renovating and reestablishing the ADA requirements for the plaza and the LOB. And the 4.3.
4.3, 2.5 of that was for the legislative parking garage, and 1.8 was for the buildup of One Granite Place to move the operations from the LOB over to One Granite Place. Sorry, those were all approved by the Joint Legislative Facilities Committee. Any expenditures out of this account in excess of $75,000 have to be approved prior to transfer. Anything under $75,000, the Joint Facilities Committee has to be notified.
And we haven't allocated any money for this at all in these years?
What's that now?
There's no revenue.
No.
So,
There used to be revenue.
There used to be
and we've
revenue.
been taking it gradually.
And then
Well,
it
but-
got to a point where it was full.
okay,
If I could,
go ahead, yes.
I looked through these things. I transferred to the spreadsheet
Mhm.
that I've always done. And they were taking the unexpended and unencumbered appropriations at the end of every budget and putting them into this fund. And after a while, things got tight and they stopped doing it. And this is the remnants of what they had.
I see.
So is
Yeah.
there a recommendation to reestablish that or not?
Not at this time. When we get down to the minimum of the 750 apiece, it may be a point that we look for a revenue source to establish it. But unless there's a future view of a genuine need, I mean, we've used this, as you can see, for major projects. And at one point, it was actually to help fund the parking garage itself with some of the resources that were there. But it's also the buffer in case there's something that happens that's outside of the budget. If there's an impeachment that costs them $1.3 million or $2 million, if there's some other activity that the general court has, if there's ever another constitutional convention, that's a funding out of the general court as well. We're responsible for funding those things. So these are things that the facilities committee could authorize through those funds as a buffer. So, and then, for instance, even when we go into that pandemic business, we had resources available for us at that point, if needed. So that it's to keep the business that you folks we're here to provide for you folks to do your daily work, and within that 6-month period. So sometimes the revenues have to be there and available to stabilize the branch.
Representative Janegian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The fact that the beginning balance is the same from 22 to 24 implies that there's no interest being earned. Is this in a non-interest bearing account?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's within the treasurer's, they hold it for us. And so whatever she's doing and has established in the treasury side, that's where it is. We don't gain any interest. I asked for the float for the whole branch. I've asked for the float repeatedly, and they don't like to give me the float, so.
Yeah, we get a big amount from, into the budget from all this kind of special interest that is from here, there, and everywhere. The treasurer is a net positive to the budget. Anyways,
Right.
Senator Gray.
Said a different way, I was told that unless the legislation that created these things directs the interest to come back to that fund, then it stays in the general fund.
Fund, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so
that's what I was told too.
It's not that there's no interest, it's just
Okay.
that it's going to the
Okay.
general fund.
And hence, that's why they didn't give me the float.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions on this one? So you're, Representative Weiler, I think you're a member of this committee, right? The Legislative Facilities?
Yes.
Yeah.
As I'm like,
Oh, you are too?
Yeah.
Okay. So you like having this money sitting around?
and that's why I was interested in whether we needed to add a
Enhance
little
it.
more to it.
Okay. All right.
Not at this time would be the,
Yeah,
would be the
not
response.
Okay. Any more questions for the general court in general? No, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay. Next, we have Department of Administrative Services. Let's see, where's? Yeah,
Thanks.
here we go.
And I did the spreadsheet for that one too.
Oh, go. Okay,
And for Fish and Game.
all right, welcome. All right, now let's see what page you're on.
As you're getting there, good morning. I'm Sherry Rockburn. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of the
20.
Department.
Buddy?
20. Yeah. Sherry Rockmore, yeah.
Law enforcement.
Okay.
All right. So, as I had said, I'm Sherry Rockburn. I'm the Assistant Commissioner, and with me today is Stacy Duffy. She's our Deputy CFO, and Dana Call is wearing dual hats today. She's our State Comptroller, but also part of our department, so she's going to assist on any specific department questions as well. Okay. The first one I would like to start with
We have
is the Law Enforcement Memorial Fund.
Yeah,
Like
the-
this.
hold on. a
Yep.
minute.
well, yeah,
Absolutely.
It looks
I
like that.
actually got this one. What I don't have at the moment is there.
You all set?
Okay, these are the people. who are-
Okay.
Oh, they are.
Sorry, go ahead.
This
Nope,
is
that's
Scott
okay.
Egan instead of,
So the first fund we have is our Law Enforcement Memorial Fund, and for those that have been on the committee, this is one of our longest standing dedicated funds. It's started probably about 93, 94 when the Law Enforcement Memorial that is at the LOB building was constructed. The law at that time said any funds that were left over after the construction of the memorial went into this dedicated fund. You'll see the balance of just over 6,000 has remained unchanged, not only for the last 4 years, for about the last 10 years that's there. And the primary reason that we haven't had to tap into it is there is a separate 501(c) nonprofit out there called the New Hampshire Law Enforcement Memorial Officers Association. And the law does allow that organization to privately fundraise, and they actually pay for the memorial plaques that go on on the memorial. And so we haven't had to tap into this leftover construction funds really since its inception of being a dedicated fund. The maintenance of the fund of the property is through our own staff, which is already covered under our plant and property division. So we have staff that do the mowing and some of the landscaping.
Mm.
So it is,
So if it
hasn't.
needed cleaning, you wouldn't necessarily take money from here, right?
Right, it's available, if something happens, but the 501(c) nonprofit has such significant fundraising efforts that they occur that they cover a lot of the bigger expenses if it's needed. And this has been there really as that starting infusion, and we haven't had to tap into it. I am doing a little research just as an aside to see, could we make a donation to the nonprofit and have that money transferred there? And I'm in a new role, overseeing these dedicated funds. So I wasn't around 5 years ago when this was presented to the committee. And I was just talking to Dana on the way over to see if we've ever really researched that. So legally, we just have to do a little research with the Department of Justice to see if that might be an option for us to do that donation, because this money has been sitting there for, like I said, 10+ years.
Representative Weiler.
I see a fairly expensive planting, all those pots of flowers and so on that go in there and come out every year. The money, where does that money come from?
I believe that that comes out of the association as opposed to the state's budget for some of that, for the elaborate bums in the flowers and things like that.
So this is the Association, Law Enforcement Association?
They have their own funding. So this is just money that was put aside at the very beginning of the fund. I think the intention was that if the nonprofit didn't materialize, it didn't have significant fundraising, we would use this fund for those purposes. We just haven't had to tap into it.
Thank you.
No, I like the idea of consolidating and sending the money to them.
Okay.
Seems simpler. Senator Gray.
So if they pay for the flowers, I think that the people who install the flowers are the people who are already funded. I guess I would not be looking to move this money anywhere, because if that fund doesn't, then that would at least give us some money for taking over whatever we needed to take over for a period of time,
Yeah.
so that we would be able to do other legislative action. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm not in favor of moving that money anywhere.
Okay. So I guess in case somebody defaced the memorial or something, there'd be money to clean it up pretty quick. Right? So, Representative Malmy.
Yeah, the statute to Governor Lyman, I think it was, I think got handed over to some nonprofit that is maintaining it. It's across in front of the library.
Yes. I feel like that's, yeah, I'm,
That's a fairly new one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fairly new one. I remember when they did that. So
Is that like Friends of the Library or something?
I'm not sure which group took it, but
yeah,
it
I am,
was originally done by the legislature and then we handed it over.
yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know the backstory on that. Generally speaking, we handle all the grounds maintenance. And so, we handle that. If something should happen to the statute, I'm not sure how that falls. Who's responsible for that? I'd have to take a look at that. I'm not sure how that works.
Okay. All right. Why don't we move to the
Okay.
next one? We sort of
On that one,
So, yeah,
what I would
Senator
like
Grant.
to see in future reports is under future funding and continued need, a statement that, that if it is the will of this committee, that this fund be retained in case the nonprofit is unable to do that, and that way it'll be a place note for next 5 years.
Okay. All right.
we don't have any decisions on that yet.
What is this one?
So the next one is the Land Conservation Endowment Fund.
Yes.
And that is managed by the Land Conservation Stewardship. And that has been historically administratively attached to our department. And this last legislative session, House Bill 2, has moved those responsibilities of the Land Conservation Stewardship Committee to the Fish and Game Department. So that was part of a House Bill 2 consolidation effort. And so in future years, this will be reported under the Fish and Game umbrella, but this primarily covers the administration of, I think right now there's just one staff there, but the administration of the staff. It covers management fees, any losses on the investments, So that's what's in that right now. But like I said, this will be moving over to Fish and Game in future years.
It says the former elk land conservation. Oh, I see, because it's now Fish and Game.
Okay.
So this is not L-chip, right? This is L-sip.
Yes,
Okay.
this is it's about 50 years old at this point.
Oh, my
Okay.
goodness.
So what is this? Principal.
We have an old farm in Lebanon up on top of a hill that was part of that program. And they just come and do regular monitoring to make sure that it's either been farmed, which it isn't, or maintained.
I mean, they have a very large balance for not much expense, right? It's,
Well, it's got to last them forever.
yeah,
That's what the balance is. It's a forever endowment.
okay. So is all the revenue just interest, or is it something else? Or investment? income?
Just interest.
Oh, okay, fine. So, even so, they're underspending it a bit, but that's okay.
Interest and probably stock increases.
That is correct.
Okay, yes. Representative Weiler.
I recall something that the registered deeds has to put money aside that is dedicated to L-chip, is my recollection. Is that still?
Yes,
Yeah, again, this is not L-chip. This is L-sip. This
All
is-
this one was federal.
Well, this is federal money.
Well, it was, I think there was probably some state money in it, but I think it was a federal initiative.
What is other sources or uses?
So the other uses, this is really for any losses on the investments is primarily what that gets represented there. Anything else that you want? Okay. State
Really?
Treasury.
On-
Yep, State Treasury, the State Treasurer's Office compiles that, and so the this would be, like I said, more from an accounting terminology, but unrealized losses on investments and things like that. The true expense column is really for the administrative expenses that occur. That's primarily what's in that column.
Okay. Other questions? No? Okay. Yes, Senator Rosewanne.
Why did the expenses increase so much from 24 to 25?
I'd have to look into the specifics. I know we've had some changeover in some staffing, and so I'd have to look to see the actual count of employees at that period. We just had a retiree that had Steve Walker, who had been a long-term director in that department. So I think some of that 25 might have been his payouts, but also the staffing in terms of additional staffing that occurred. But I'd have to look into more specifics on that.
Thank you.
But there was a matching, oh, wait a minute. Oh, there's matching much higher revenue too. So there's something strange. Maybe a grant of some kind?
I think it's primarily the yeah, I think it's interest has been very strong, but I can look into that as well and see
Yeah,
if something
please
else came in. Yeah.
Add a little more detail
Sure,
to this
absolutely.
page. Okay. All right, thank you. So next.
Next, we get into the really exciting accounting dedicated funds. So the audit fund set aside account, this is, the revenue comes from state agencies, from non-general fund sources. They pay a percentage of federal, for the most part, federal revenue that they receive. They pay a percentage into this fund that helps cover the audit costs associated with auditing the state's books.
Very worthwhile.
We try to share the cost. The salary adjustment fund, technically in the statute, it's called the pay adjustment fund. This is from under RSA 99 for about once a year. We look at it quarterly, but we do a large transfer every spring. This is from agencies that have general funds. And we take a look at any excess salary appropriations, once again, generally funded appropriations that appear to be in excess of the budget. So let's say there's vacancies. We're right now in a delayed, hiring freeze. So any savings, I'll say, or under budget salary accounts, we do a sweep. So our department will sweep other agencies' generally funded salary accounts and put them into this account. Other agencies that are short can tap into this account to cover additional expenses that were unanticipated, primarily from retirements or terminations, payouts, or maybe someone got hired at a different step than was originally budgeted. So that's where this fund has been very helpful to sort of true up that generally funded piece of state agencies in terms of their salaries. So instead of going back to which they cannot, but go back to the legislature and say, especially for a small agency that might have 2 or 3 people there and their salaries are set in that budget 2 years ago, they have turnover. If they come in lower, we pull the excess. If they have a higher need, they can also pull from it. And so this lapses. And at the end of at the end of this legislative session in House Bill 2, you'll notice that there was an ending balance that was left in the fund. And this was a proposal we had done during the House phase last year, where both the salary adjustment fund and a few pages you'll see a benefit adjustment fund, which is the exact same purpose, but for the health benefit side of things. We left money aside in both of those funds to deal with any potential layoffs as a result of decreases in the operating budget. So if agencies experienced layoffs and they weren't able to reassign staff to other vacancies in the state, and that's where our primary effort was to reassign. But if there was a layoff, we wanted money to be left aside for agencies to help cover those payouts and transition of those employees. Because of our 2-week lag in our salary payroll, we wanted to make sure agencies didn't prematurely give layoff notices early June to state employees when the budget hadn't been finalized yet. So we wanted money to be available to make those payments in July for employees that were still employed in the month of June. So this helped with any transition resulting from a layoff. At the end of the day, we hardly tapped into that. So the law required us to use those funds to help with any of the layoffs, and any balance remaining at 9/30 is going to be transferred to the rainy day fund, because that's where this fund gets lapsed to every year. And we'll be presenting that probably to an informational item to fiscal probably in October, just to give you a sense of that. But that we tapped into it a little bit, but not nearly as much as we put aside, which was great. We didn't have nearly the layoffs that the agencies were anticipating when they were doing their budget cuts.
So do I understand that, so the revenue is unspent salary money,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
The expenses are these extra little bits that somebody was hired at a different level, et cetera. Almost nothing, right?
Mhm.
And the other is to the rainy day fund, this big
Correct.
leftover at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay,
That's exactly how that works.
okay, I see. All right, yes, sorry, Representative Janigian and then Senator Roswell.
So given that, then the ending balance, 399,973, when we see the report for 2026, it'll be back to 0.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And you'll see that 399,000, like I said, we tapped into a little bit of that, so not 100% will lapse to the rainy day in September at the end of this month, but there will be a substantial amount that still will lapse.
Will you be wanting to do that every other year now? Is that?
I don't anticipate it. I mean, it was really as a cushion because of the budgetary environment. I think it really depends on where we are sort of 2 years from now in terms of what the climate looks like.
Gotcha.
The
Senator?
The Senate is the one who put that provision
Okay,
in.
perfect.
And the reason for it is that the layoff notices would have had to go out, but we didn't know who we were gonna lay off.
I understand.
So I had to pay for it somehow into the next budget.
Right.
And so that's
Correct.
why we did all of this, and it was purely to keep us out of trouble
Senator Rosenwald?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Sherry, when an agency needs to tap into this fund, is this an item that comes before fiscal as a transfer?
So it doesn't come before fiscal. The statute, the RSA underlying it, requires it to go through governor and council only, but not through fiscal. And the way the statute reads is we get, I'll say, permission or approval at the beginning of a fiscal year. So we'll go to GNC July, August period, asking for permission to do any transfers for the upcoming year. And then we do a report at the end of the year that summarizes all those transfer activity. So it's just, right now, the statute just requires it to be through government council, but not fiscal.
Senator Gray?
I would think that these transfers would be below the limit that would come to fiscal, so, you know, that
Yeah.
would be the reason
Yeah.
why.
I will say that
There was one for
traditionally,
6,000.
that is very much the case. It's small dollars. So think of the normal transfer limit of 100,000. Fiscal wouldn't normally see those. Anything under 100,000, a lot of those fall into that. Our largest draw of the fund, both salary and the benefits, is Department of Corrections, and they have the ability to do transfers of anything in their class, well, their salary accounts. They can transfer money to pay overtime. And so right now they transfer a significant amount of what they think is going to be excess salaries to help pay their overtime. But then what ends up happening is then they fall short at the end of the year in their salary line, and they come to this fund to help bail them out. It does work within the legal, accommodations that happen, but they are the biggest users right now of that. HHS does not contribute into the fund or take anything out. So they take care of any of their salary benefit excess or shortfall within their own budget.
All right, Representative Almy, then Senator Gray.
Thank you. I'm confused as to other services. If this was payments for layoffs, 23 and 22 added up, both had very large amounts that were put in there, and they added up to about $10 million. And then there was 7 million in 21 in the book.
Yep. So Representative Alme, the column that you're referring to is not the payments made for the layoffs. That's actually the transfer back to the rainy day fund. So the expense column to the left is actually that column that you're referring to. So that was money that was
It's this
still
little
available.
tiny stuff.
Yeah.
Got it.
So in 2022 was $488. That was all that agencies needed to tap into the fund to help cover anything. And 4 million ended up being lapsed back to the rainy day fund or back to the general fund.
Thanks.
Senator Gray?
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just going to jump ahead for a second. If you turn to page 10, 10 of 18 in our letter, this is the corresponding employee benefit adjustment fund. So we sort of talked about the salary side. This fund works the exact same way, only it just is for the sort of health and dental benefits. So it's about halfway down on page 10 of 18. And you'll see that once again, the revenue coming in is anything that was budgeted in a benefit line, so class 60, and expenses would be to cover someone is hired. We budgeted for a single person and a new hire, or the person got married and had a child and is on a family health plan. So that would be the unforeseen expenses that would go into that column. And then the other column, once again, is the lapse at the end of the year that goes back to the general fund.
So let me ask a question. Why is the 25, 24 years a significantly different amount than the 22, 23 years? Is it change in the labor market in some way, or?
On the revenue side, are you looking?
Yeah, the revenue or the transfer, I mean,
Yeah,
either way.
I think the revenue side is primarily the result of budgeting and the hiring market. So if agencies in those years budgeted for every one of their authorized positions, or they got new positions added, they would have funds that were budgeted, but maybe they weren't able to hire into those positions. So if they weren't able to hire into those positions, that would be excess. So that's really what drives it. So I don't necessarily think it was that the cost dramatically changed and our health insurance was just less expensive. It was more the result of just the volume of the employees. You know, our quantity of employees. How are they, do we have additional employees? Did we budget anticipating that we would have a much lower vacancy rate? And what ended up happening is the market outside of state employment was so great that we had very high vacancies. And that's really what drove it. So it wasn't really that our costs, we budgeted too much in terms of costs. We just budgeted for positions that we ended up either employees leaving the state in terms of service or unable to just recruit back in.
So the market for employees has loosened a little, I guess. So we're able to hire a little better in the last 2 years, maybe? Is that, or maybe we just budgeted better?
I think that what we definitely saw, I would say in the 26, 27 especially, is that we really looked at how efficient are we going to be with actually hiring. So instead of funding 100%, assuming that there's going to be a zero vacancy, we really looked at it because the budget was getting constricted. Was if we normally have a 10, 20% vacancy rate, do we want to put that money aside in a position that we likely won't be able to fill? And then those dollars can be used for other services or other programs. And so I think that as the economy got a little more constricted, as we were thinking and planning ahead, those numbers came down from that reason. And I think in the other years, there was sufficient funding that was available, both from the federal government and the state, that type of exercise wasn't done as scrutinized as much as we did in this last session.
Thank you. Other questions? I don't see any hands? All right, let's go.
Okay, so we are back on page 5, right?
Page 5 of 18, yes. Employee education and training.
So this referred to as our Bureau of Employee and Training. We have a bureau within our department or sort of division of personnel that provides training opportunities for both state employees and municipalities. And this fund is the revenue from this fund is from people paying for classes, I'll say sort of paying tuition to take classes. The expenses are administrative support, I'll say instructors that we have to pay for. Some are within our department or other state employees that might offer their time to help teach. Sometimes we have outside instructors that come in that we pay for. The law requires that any balance greater than 100,000 has to lapse at the end, but the law allows us to maintain up to 100,000 that stays within the fund.
So this is simple training, like how to use a computer system?
Yeah,
or
some of
something
it
like
is
that?
some of it is just basic. We have basic Excel courses, public speaking courses. There's also a certification program for supervisors and managers that is recognized, and that's a more long-term certification program that employees can take. So it's a little bit combination of everything.
Any questions? No? Okay.
Page 6, the surplus distribution fund. This is, in other words, White Farm. So and so the revenues coming in, you have stuff from the auction, any sales that are occurring. Expenses are running the White Farm. So it covers administrative costs, auctioneer that we have to pay for. And this is a non-lapsing dedicated fund for that.
Could I go back for a minute?
Sure, Representative
to-
Almy.
To 91. The write-up says that you're also paying for courses for some individuals and nonprofit organizations. Or
Yeah.
is that supposed to be staff for the courses that are being given?
No, I think that we do allow those organizations to take courses. I don't know the breakout if there's very many that actually attend any of the courses. I will say that the municipality sector really takes advantage of the training opportunities. If you look at the rosters, they make up a large portion of our classes. I don't know if I've seen any or what that makeup is if, in terms of attendance.
But they pay their fee then.
Correct. They would pay their, anything for them coming to any of the classes.
Okay. So what about this yellow belt, green belt, black?
Those are terminologies for they call them lean programs, and those are looking at how do you become more efficient in your operation. So they look at obstacles, and then there's a whole national certification for people to be able to evaluate that. That just happens to be a hot ticket item in terms of people wanting to take it. And
So the
there's
black
there's
belt-
different levels.
The black belt's tighter than the yellow belt?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so page 7, this is our federal food surplus program.
Did
Oh,
we
sorry.
finish, did we finish surplus?
Oh, the White Farm.
Anybody had a question about
Any,
White
any other
Farm?
questions on White Farm?
I
Representative
got a
Malmy?
question about why we've got a 92A and a 92B that are totally different subjects from each other.
Yeah, the RSA lumps these two programs together, even though they're very, very different, but they fall under the same division within our department. So our division of procurement happens to be, that's where the statute has placed both of these divisions or bureaus. So the programs are run under that division's director, which I think is why that's labeled as such. And the way the statute reads, it talks about a surplus surplus fund for assets, property, and then it talks about a surplus program for food. And it's just the way that the statute reads. That's why that is set up that way. And the food surplus, so that,
Are we still on 92A?
no, 92B, unless you have a question on 92A.
I did.
Okay.
What does recycling mean? Does it mean materials sold to the public? Or does it mean dumping it into a recycling center and?
It would be a recycling, like, let's say, if someone purchased, which I don't know the volume of, if this occurs very much at all, so metals, of that nature. We have a recycling fund, which is in a few pages, and that's more of the costs associated with, let's say, paper or things that end up going to a recycling plant. So that's a separate fund. This is more for any revenue that we might get from, like I said, metals or steel. I don't know the what people like to buy in terms of that.
It does mean sold to
Yes,
the public.
correct. So the food surplus account, this is a federal program. So we receive food, actually a warehouse. We have a warehouse of food. It's located kind of on the corner of Hills Ave and Store Street. We have that's where our facility is, and most of this goes to schools. The food goes to that. Once again, I don't have the distribution of other organizations that receive the food that comes in. Most of it does go to schools. They have to pay a portion. It's a very small amount for cases of food that gets delivered. So it gets utilized quite a bit, I would say, from the school districts as a way to help offset their food costs. And this has been in place for quite a number of years. We have four or five staff that are in this program. We have 5 full-time, and some of them are drivers, that they have refrigeration trucks that will deliver the food to the locations.
And where do they get the food from? They buy it, or
It comes from
or it comes from the federal
it
government?
comes from the federal government. I don't know the location of sort of where we go, where the distribution center is. I don't know where that is, but it's excess from federal purchases.
I guess I'm missing. I heard.
Oh. And you're changing this fund in a few months to a different AU. and calling it food state administrative expense.
So this is more of just, I'll say, some accounting and budgetary cleanup. We currently had 2 accounting units that were in our budget that were very similar. You had a surplus food accounting unit and a food administration accounting unit. And the administration, all the money came from a transfer from the other fund. So they were completely tied to each other. One primarily had the staff costs in it, and then the other fund was covering the cost of us purchasing the food. And so for budgetary cleanup, we said it's all related to the same program. There's no additional revenue that comes in. There's not a reason to maintain 2 separate accounts, one that just because the expenses are different. One goes to our people, one is going to buy the food. So we combined it in the budget. So that it's just under one. So you can really see the full program in one accounting unit. So that'll be in our future reporting.
So 5129 disappears and its work gets put into 5718.
Correct.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Was there an extra big federal grant in 2025? Is that why it jumped from 500,000 to 900?
They do, yes. The federal government, when they have, I'll say, extra funding, they'll do a supplemental grant. And so we received a larger supplemental. So we had, our program is generally 200,000 to 300,000 is what the federal government originally budgets. And we always budget for that. And the last few years, they've done supplemental grant awards to states. And so we received a significant amount of this extra federal funding. When we budgeted for 26, 27, we brought that back down a little bit because we could not confirm that we would receive those extra federal fundings in the future. So I don't know the exact number that we budgeted for 26, 27, but that's what the jump was in those years.
So you can just control it by not buying as much food and
Correct. So
Right.
we can control it a few different ways. Is right. We won't purchase as much. We also tried to look at our staffing cost to make sure that, what we need. We do charge a very small amount to municipalities and those that purchase the food. You'll notice it's like $7 per box, and we did increase that a little bit to help offset that decreased federal funding. That rate has to be approved by the federal government that we charge. So that's also another way to help control the cost. We can control the cost by decreasing our spend, and we can also charge a little bit for the food that others purchase from us. And so that's, like I said, a very small amount, but we have some flexibility there. But it is a program that we're actually going to have to really closely monitor to make sure that if we don't get the supplemental or if additional federal cuts happen to the program, we're going to have to stay on top of that.
does this go to just schools or also food banks?
No, it also goes to others. I said schools is our, I referenced that because that's our primary purchaser. But yeah, daycares also receive, they're allowed to purchase from it as well.
All right. Let's go on.
Our next one is the Fireman's Relief Fund, and this one looks a little funny because it seems,
$6,000.
yep, in the budget, it requires us, actually, the state law requires us to pay $6,000 to the Fireman's Relief Fund, and because we pay them once a year, it seems that we forget to pay them, and they forget to send us an invoice. So every year, we remind them to bill us, so we can actually make a payment to them. So it's, and you'll notice that, as staffing turnover happens, we realize the next year, oh, they didn't send us a bill. And so we have a catch up. So we just actually, for 26, we paid our 25 bill, and we also paid our 26 bill.
I remember last 5 years ago, we asked, why do we have to keep doing this? This, I looked it up. It was originated in 1899. It has not been revised since 1973. And $6,000 doesn't pay for a whole lot at this point compared to what they must be spending for insurance for the firemen. So I don't know if we ever got an answer as to why we couldn't get rid of it somehow.
I can just add, I was here when we talked about it, and I think we talked to the insurance department a little bit, and we kind of, Charlie and I went back and forth, but I don't think we ever got a solid answer, and I don't know if that would mean we'd have to reach out to the Fireman's Relief Fund, kind of what we're talking about doing with the Law Enforcement Memorial as a separate entity. We might have to reach out to them and generate those discussions, but we did not really get a solid answer 5 years ago.
Representative Weiler.
In the budget, we went up from 500,000 to 1 million. If there were a large accident, several people were involved in, on the side of the road or whatever, then I guess that doesn't affect this fund.
No. This fund is very, very old.
Yeah. It doesn't look like much money goes in and out of it, except,
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a charitable contribution.
Yeah.
Right.
And the dollar amount is set in statute,
Okay.
which, as
Yeah.
Representative Olmert said, hasn't
It
changed in
is.
a very long time.
There's plenty of firefighters who are representatives, so if they wanted more money, they could put in a bill. Right?
Yep.
So,
and they do.
and they do. So is does the committee want to just end this or talk to them or anything?
I don't know if we can end it without talking to them.
Okay.
Unlike the other one, this one is every year, if they remember to ask for it, $6,000 goes over there, but it goes through this circuitous route from insurance to the treasury to send it out.
Yeah, it seems complicated. And the fact that they don't ask for it makes it seem like they don't really want it that much, right?
Well, they
So-
don't know it's there, but if you talked about eliminating it, they'd ask you to triple it
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
or quadruple.
Yeah.
But
that's
how much does
probably
it
true.
cost us to do the bureaucracy to get it to them?
Yeah. Yeah, probably a couple hundred. All right, so why don't you reach out to the Firemen's Association and see how important this is or how it affects their budget or something, get a little more detail. All right.
Okay, our next one, the Revenue Stabilization Account, commonly referred to as our rainy day fund.
It looks healthy until this year.
Yeah.
Oh, there have been past
Yeah, I think-
years when it didn't.
We just added a note, as of next Tuesday, when we put out our draft, 9:30 version of our state financial statements for FY '25, we'll have an estimate, but as of this writing, we don't have an estimate yet.
Okay.
So that's why you have '24 information still.
Yeah, we don't have a 2025 figure.
Right. Well, we're not going to change it, so let's move on.
All right. We've already talked about the Employee Benefit Adjustment Fund, so I'll move on from that. Okay, our next one, this is our insurance fund, our employee and retiree benefit program, and this revenue. So with this, let me back up. When we first established this fund, it was when we were self-insured. Back in the 90s, we were self-insured, and so the RSA required us to have a certain amount of months of reserve to cover any lag in terms of payments or catastrophic costs that occur. Most of our programs are now under an insurance umbrella versus self-insured, but the revenue comes from contributions, both from agency contributions, employees, retirees, depending on when you're vested, not vested. There's different percentages or dollar amounts that they have to pay into this. The expenses that come out are for claims, administrative costs, actuarial support. We have third-party administrators that help manage some of our health plans. So this is our main health insurance program in terms of the funding that goes into this. So it's restricted for that purpose. The RSA does not allow us to tap into this for any other purpose other than to run the health benefit program.
Now, I remember in the budget, there was a fund similar to this. Maybe it's not this one, that we did because we used to be self-insured and we're not self-insured now, and we took a little money out of it and all that. Was that this one? Or
Yes, it is. So what,
Oh,
what you
okay.
saw in the budget is the state general fund contribution to help pay for the insurance. And that's exactly right. We tapped into some of this reserve to help offset a very significant general fund increase that we were expecting in the 26-27 budget. So we were looking, so that's, but this is the exact fund that we were transferring from this fund into that generally funded account to offset the general fund increase.
Okay. Right, but you said you couldn't use this for other purposes, but it seemed like we did.
Well, it only covers health insurance. So
Oh, I
let me say, it's to fund the program. So that's where that
Gotcha.
we can't use it for
Right.
fireman's relief.
Yeah, Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Other questions? Yes, Senator Rosenwald.
I saw that we were making a change to the employee health plan, that we were splitting up the administration of the medical, staying with the Anthem, and moving on from Anthem, let's say, to go back to Express Scripts. Is that going to, how is that going to affect the cost?
And I don't, it was a contract that went to GNC, was presented
Last
to GNC
week,
last
I
week.
think.
The Anthem was for the active health plan. The contract was tabled at that meeting. It'll get that current contract with Anthem. We went out to bid. They were the only compliant bidder this round. So if that gets approved by Government Council, it'll be effective in January. The Express Scripts, I believe, is for the retiree side of the house, and that one did get approved. I want to say that's also a January date. So it wasn't that Express Scripts. There were two separate contracts that were happening. Like Anthem was primarily more active employees health insurance. Express Scripts, I believe, was retiree only prescription drugs, but I'd have to sort of double check that.
Yeah, because Anthem had been doing
Yeah.
retiree prescription drugs as well.
Yeah.
Badly.
Yeah, I'll definitely, I will
I'm
have to look
just
into that, Senator.
curious.
Yeah.
Whether it's gonna be more, less expensive, or stay the same.
Yeah, we still went with the most reasonable in terms of a cost, in terms of our RFP process. I think if costs do go up, one of the things we've been trying to manage is the impact on the federal government side. We do a Medicare Advantage program, and we pay for some of that. And so for a long time, we've had a zero premium with our insurance carriers to run that. But as the federal rates that we receive change, that cost of that may go up. I don't know the specifics. I have to look at the contract itself to figure out what the price difference may be with that swap. But I think that when we selected it, it was to try to find the best cost and the best service when we made the change. But I'd have to look at that, Senator.
Okay. Ready? Yeah, let's move on.
Okay.
So,
Okay. The next one is our Energy Efficiency Fund. And this covers really the cost for any projects that the department will do statewide to make our facilities more energy efficient. Some of the projects over the years have been windows, it's been lighting. So for example, when you leave the room, the lights turn off, or if there's no movement in the room, projects like that. There was a law passed a few years back where the end of a biennium, 50% of any general fund savings on utilities gets transferred to this fund. So that is sort of more of the ongoing revenue that goes into it is any savings. So as agencies, not just administrative services, but statewide, as they have reductions in their utility cost, 50% of that, instead of lapsing to the general fund, goes into this fund for those types of projects. It's a very small administrative side of the house in terms of a cost. We had 2 employees and a part-time, and one of them has retired recently. I think retired or terminated. I don't remember if they had left. I forget where they went, but so we have one person that's actually managing our state energy program at the moment. But that's what that fund represents.
Would it be possible to, I mean, these are the kind of things that the sooner you do them, the better it is, right? So, you know, you're saving money for a longer period of time, and presumably you can do the project at a lower cost. So could you do more projects? Because there's a healthy balance here of 2 million compared to, you know, you're spending only 800,000 per year or something.
And I can follow up with you to see what's on the horizon for projects right now. I don't have a current list of that, but I can talk with our director, Karen Rentamaki. Her division within our Department of Plant and Property manages this with our state energy officer. So I can find out what's on the horizon for that. We do sometimes get some revenue from Department of Energy. So if they get a federal program, sometimes that gets passed through to us. But I don't know the projects that they're currently working on, but I can find out and what's in the horizon.
It just seems to me that there's no particular reason to have a large balance. It's not like this is being saved for a rainy day, right? This is to
Right.
make it so we don't pay as much in utility bills, right? So, Representative Malmy?
Yeah, I was a little confused by this. Originally, it was directed at all the agencies to improve their energy efficiency. It sounded like now you're concentrating all the decisions in the PUC or something like that.
No, the PUC may contribute income into the fund. So like I said, Department of Energy or the Public Utilities Commission, if they received funding, let's say federal funding, our revenue may come from them. They don't necessarily direct how we spend the money. So they're more of money that may come into the program. We have like DPW projects, our construction projects. A lot of times those, if they're building related, there's language in our contract that if there's rebates available for energy efficiency that we've done in that construction project, those rebate revenues would also go into this fund. So I think that's where, and the rebates sometimes will come from, might be federal, it might be within a state funded program. So that's where that comes into. I don't know if there's any currently, but sometimes agencies specifically, they may do projects on their own that we also assist them with. So some of the projects we try to do that statewide, but they also may be building specific that occur.
All right, here's the recycling one.
Okay. Right. So this is the one we were talking about a little bit earlier. So we have a full-time staff that gets paid out of this fund. And this is really this is that waste reduction. So I think of it as paper products, recycling products. So this is revenue which is very little, but revenue that might come from that, and expenses related to the staffing and any costs that we have to pay to get rid of the waste.
Sure. So maybe a lot of this comes from DOT.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if I have an agency breakdown or not.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Question? Okay.
We're winding down. Okay. So the next one, this is our commonly referred to as a P card program. It's our procurement card fund. Several years back, we instituted this program. It's really, think of it as a credit card. It's a credit card that is very restrictive in terms of use and who's allowed to have it. Agencies are responsible for making sure that the use is appropriate. They assign who might get one of the cards. We also have within our Department of Division that also does audits on the use of the P card. We get rebates based on our usage. So we have the revenue that's coming into this fund is through our contractual arrangement I'm saying we just changed it. So Bank of America is our vendor that we pay. And so in terms of volume, so the more we use the card, we get rebates on that. I don't know the exact, I don't think it says here, I don't know the exact percentage. I know it's sort of a sliding scale. So we have revenue that comes in every time we use it. Most of the cards have a cap that you can't do more than $1,000. There sometimes are exceptions if there's a purchase that has to be made, and paying through a credit card versus going through a traditional state purchase. We can do a waiver for that. It's just depends on sort of the use. There's restrictions that are automatically factored in, where if you went to a place based on a commodity code, it would restrict someone's use from doing something inappropriately with the card. So that's also there. But agencies are responsible for sort of maintaining their list of people. The person's name is actually on the card, so it's not administrative services card. It'll have a specific name on it. I don't have one, so I don't know exactly how it looks. But that's what Dana doesn't either. But it's really so you can go to the hardware store and you need to purchase something in order to fix something. I mean, this replaced what used to be called the field purchase orders, where it was really going to a vendor saying, "I promise we'll pay you at the end of the month," and we gave them a piece of paper. And this program kind of offset that. We can also use it for some online purchases, which has also been very helpful when you have to put a credit card number in to do that purchase.
So the numbers we're seeing here, that's the 2.5% or whatever that Bank of America is paying you,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So the amount of money flowing through these cards is much higher.
Correct.
It's millions,
Yes.
right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so Bank of America pays me 2.75% on my Visa card, so hopefully you get the same thing, or better. Now, is there, and the expenses are the employees who distribute the cards and audit them and things like that? Is that?
Yeah, there's now 2 employees in the program. So the RSA had read that you can hire staff to monitor the program as long as you're receiving enough rebates to cover that. So we have 2 full-time staff right now that are responsible for the cards. They do audits, sort of checks and balances with that. They have lots of different reports that they can access. They also have to really administer the program. So they're doing approvals. They're working directly with Bank of America also on that. So that's what those expenses are. But if you think about the actual use, that's going to flow through your regular state budget. So think about, you have a current expense line in the budget for paper, supplies, whatever it may be. And when an agency presents it, it's just going to show up as an expense in your budget. So that, that expense won't show up there. That's just part of our normal operating expense, whether we paid with think credit card or cash or a check from Treasury, those expenses are all sort of on the budget. So what this is that expense for the dedicated staff. And then, like I said, rebates are that, we'll say the 2% or whatever that sliding scale is.
Now, you have commitments only on the year 2025. Is that an error or?
Or it's first time required.
Yeah. Oh,
No, it
oh my God.
leads to
So
150,000.
it's amazing how you forget that we do this. So
25,000.
House Bill 2, we were asked to roll up our sleeves to see if there's any of our dedicated funds that we could lapse to the general fund. So we were estimating at the end what our balance may be at the end of 6/30/25, and we estimated in House Bill 2 of $1,253,623. We thought that would be our balance at the end of the year. So we put that into statute that would be a forced lapse at the end of 25. We also changed the statute to read that going forward, we would only keep a reserve amount of 25,000 in this fund, and anything that's earned in excess of 20,000 will also lapse.
So that's already in statute.
That's already in statute.
See,
And
I
we
was
did
go-
our first
I was
transfer
gonna
in
suggest
25.
that, so.
I thought it was.
I was like, as I read through it, I'm like, oh, I forgot about that.
I see.
Yep.
It's over here.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. We already did it.
Could
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
ask
yes,
about that one?
Representative
Yeah,
Wong. Yeah.
25,000 is a actual amount. What happens to the program when inflated money requires an increase? You have to change the statute each time?
We would either have to change the statute or reduce our cost. Maybe it's no longer 2 full-time staff. Maybe it's 1 full-time staff. Maybe it's part-time staff. We'd have to look at our cost before we likely came back and asked for more money. The other option would obviously be a general fund request, which is also very difficult to do. So I think it just depends on the environment at the time. If our rebate revenue isn't enough to cover the 2 staff, then we would have to relook at our program. Yeah, and either, like I said, either increase that threshold or some combination of staff reduction or general funds to help it. But we felt confident that based on the rebates our percentage that we get from rebates, that we would have sufficient enough to cover that staff and be able to still lapse some money.
Yeah, because the rebates are coming all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, okay. All right.
But inflation is growing.
Yeah.
Our next 2 funds are really very similar. There's a building maintenance fund that you'll see on the following page, and then there's one that's called the maintenance fund. So they're both a maintenance fund. They are both for buildings. The first one that you see is the only money that goes into it is from safety and DOT, from a very small percent that they pay out of highway funds. So it's really just to have a dedicated maintenance fund, but one of them is funding that's coming from highway as the originating source. The maintenance fund that's on page 16 of 18 of our letter, that is coming from non-highway funds. So that's just so we can separate for constitutional purposes in RSA that highway funds are separated. So it's the sort of similar purpose in both funds, but they are separated for that purpose. And the accounting unit 7049, which is the dedicated fund 350 on page 16, you'll see in other sources back in 23 a very large amount of 8.2 million. And that was at a time where state government money was available for use. We were trying to figure out back when we were trying to figure out how to spend the excess funds that we had. And we received a one-time general fund infusion of 8 million into this fund. As Charlie always says, our Commissioner Arlinghouse, if we had to do a list of all the deferred maintenance at all our buildings, it would come out to probably billions, not millions. And so there's always enough to do. And so we infused some funding when it was available, but that's where this fund is used for. It's to really fix things that are unanticipated. And that's where that's been that use.
So once again, there's a very large balance compared to annual expenses. Now, I see you did increase the rate significantly in 2025, but are you planning to do that again or keep going or?
And
So I'm looking at the second one.
Yep.
And spending in 2022, 500, 600, 900, 2.7 million, right?
Yeah.
So you are spending it a little faster, but the fund is a lot. It's 11 million.
Correct. And what
So-
you can see is, right, we had that prior to that 8 million infusion, we were down to about 3 million.
Mhm.
When we received that money in 23, we were anticipating that we did not receive, let me back up. We also asked for money in the capital budget every 2 years, and we haven't been receiving as much in our capital budget. So this infusion of the 8 million was to help offset funding that we were not getting in the capital budget. Subsequent to that, when the ARPA funding came out, the 1.2 billion of ARPA funds that were available to us, we had 2 accounts, but they were about 20 million each to do infrastructure type projects. And so our expenses likely would have been higher in tapping into this fund if we didn't have 20+ million of federal money that came in from ARPA. And so I think, and that ARPA projects have to be spent by December of 26. So that will sort of end that use of that fund. And then this will be our only source to do those types of projects.
I see.
So it was a way to reserve some money when the money was available at that time back in 23.
But you're spending it as fast as you
As we can,
as you
correct.
think it's
Yeah.
prudent, right?
And I think right now is in addition to this, we just had a significant number of projects from the ARPA funding that's come in, and that's been taking also in terms of time and resources. We've been prioritizing those because that has such a restriction in terms of when those projects have to be done or you have to pay back the federal funds. And so those projects have been that priority. And as those finish up, then we'll be able to reassess and the utilization of this fund.
And you expect to get down back to the 1, 2, 3 million kind of
Yeah.
balance, okay. Questions? All right.
All right, we're down to our last two. Page 17 is our graphic
Oh,
service fund.
sorry,
Oh,
one
yep,
other
absolutely.
question about,
Yep.
because you have highway and you have general, should there be a fish and game maintenance fund?
So for Fish and Game, their building, it's one of the few buildings that we don't do a lot of the maintenance of that building. Fish and Game maintains their own building and their other locations as well. So it's not something that DAS manages for them.
Oh, I see.
So that's why that's set up that way.
So they might have in their own section.
They
right?
may have something dedicated in their own accounts. I'm not sure, but they would pay for it themselves.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Okay. So second to last, our graphic service. So this is an internal bureau within our department. And they do printing services for all your bills, the dedicated fund book, things of that nature.
Business cards.
That staff has been also dwindling over the years. The printing operator and the press machines are a little different than they were back in the day. So this fund is sort of self-contained. There's very, very little general funds that come into this. It's primarily what we charge other state agencies that utilize the services. And then we said the expenses are the staff and printing supplies and costs of that nature.
Mhm.
Agencies
What
also,
is-
oh, go ahead.
What is other sources?
So that is an infusion of general funds. A few years back, there was several accounting units that managed this bureau, and it got combined into one. And there was general funds that still contributed to the budget. So that's just the general fund contribution to the graphics fund.
Right, but okay, but
yeah,
this is a ongoing activity
Correct.
that's keeping its same sort of balance. as it
And
was.
agencies do.
Representative Olney.
Okay. Nope, go ahead.
There's something in the write-up on expenses that you can use any excess amounts in the fund to fund administration, management, operations, positions, activities, capital, or other needs of the department.
Hmm.
Does that actually get activated?
No.
Maybe you should take it out then.
No.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so we'll put this on our list to maybe clean up a little. Take that sentence. Okay.
That would be a revised RSA if necessary.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In our bill, we could, it's RSA 21I 12, looks like. Okay, last.
So our last one.
Bridges.
Yep, our Bridges House, which is also our newest fund. It was set up just about a year or so ago. And the Bridges House had a Friends of the Bridges House. And that Friends organization, that nonprofit organization was dissolving. And they had a balance when they dissolved. And they, I'll say, donated that balance. And so there was the law that was passed said that balance would go into a dedicated fund used for maintenance of the Bridges House. And so that's really how that fund came to be. As like I said, the Friends organization dissolved. And at that time, that was the balance that was left, and it came over to our department.
Is that a typo? Friends of the Bride's House?
Yes.
Should be Bridget.
Yep.
Yeah.
Representative Olney?
I don't think it's available for weddings or anything.
Do we have any idea how much money they were spending on maintenance and how much it needs?
You know, I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to do a little digging of what reporting that they do that would show that entire picture. We've always been available to assist with maintenance of the property. So the Friends was a supplement to I'll say our regular state budget that does any buildings and maintenance across all state buildings. So our department has always been sort of responsible. The Friends program did additional projects there. I don't know the volume or the dollar on what they had done independently.
Okay. So this isn't a large amount of money coming with a small amount of money coming with a larger deficit behind it.
So you have a department of maintenance that's regularly paying their utility bills and mowing the lawn
Correct,
and
correct.
all this kind of stuff, right? So, okay. But this is more for something, needs a new front door or something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, other questions for the department? No, okay, I think there's a few things
Okay.
on the
Yep.
list to
Yeah.
follow up on. Yes,
I
Representative Mulvey.
do have a question, which is I totally missed while I was trying to get all my papers together. Names.
Oh, yeah, please repeat your name.
And
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know that you aren't exactly the same people that were supposed to be coming in because
Okay.
you're all women.
Yep. Dana's the only one that was on our letter and is here. So Dana Call, our state comptroller. This is Dana.
Yes.
Sherry Rockburn,
Sherry Rockburn,
and I'm the assistant commissioner for the department.
Assistant Commissioner.
Stacy Duffy,
Stacy Duffy.
and she's our deputy CFO.
Thank you.
Commissioner Erlinghouse has been in Chicago visiting his dad today. He's on the planes, trains, and automobiles part of his journey. So Uber to the airport, to the plane, to Boston, to the bus, to back to Concord. So that today's his travel day. So that's why he's not here today.
We had a day 2 weeks ago where we took a car, a bus, a train, a taxi, and a boat. All on the same day.
Wow.
I took the bus down to NCSL, and it took me 5 emails to convince the person from NCSL that was supposed to pay my travel that Dartmouth coach existed.
Keep those horses rolling.
All right, thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you. So let's take a look at the memo we got from the HHS. Where is that? Here. All right, thank you. Okay. How are we doing on time? Where are we? Okay.
And I want to apologize, my usual,
Wait a minute.
oh.
All right, so one at a
Dana
time.
left, and we haven't talked about inactive funds.
Oh,
I guess we'll talk about them later.
next time. All right. So Senator Roosevelt, did you have something you wanted?
No, I don't have one. I have a version that's printed portrait. And so the
Oh.
last column
I'm not,
we cut off.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure what it is we're talking about in HHS.
This document.
Oh,
That should have been on your desk as you came in.
yes, I know, and yes. Oh, no, that's for Fish and Game. Ah, thank you. Ah, the dedicated funds that could be considered.
The first page is all the ones we don't need.
Yes, but some of them we have trouble getting rid of.
Yeah. The only one that's a little confusing is the last one. The statute.
Oh,
Discontinued.
it seems to have. Oh. It
Yeah,
finishes its statement on the second page.
right, but it's. I don't quite understand.
Yeah.
All right, Jennifer, could you ask Mr. White to give us a more detailed explanation on Fund 15? Yeah. Because what he wrote here seemed confusing. Okay. Outstanding, or maybe it's later in this thing, no? No. This is the public health. I guess not, no. Oh, public health special fund? No. Yeah, all right, it's the first one.
Oh, yeah.
It's 277 in your book.
I say they spend it down to zero every year.
Right, I think I remember. This was one that always had
Oh,
a
no,
zero
we said that.
balance, and therefore
Yeah.
it seemed like there was no point in having a fund, right?
Yeah.
It's just, they're still doing it, but anyway. So, okay, maybe we don't have to ask a question.
Well, there is a question, I suppose. If we needed, if they need to increase fees, he's kind of left it vague as to whether the program activities are sufficient to what they do.
Dan, it's 277 in your book.
Page 277, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to look in there. It talks about dedicated funds composed of licensing fees imposed on beverage and milk producers, etc. So
Oh, the milk one. That's the one they never answered last time. They didn't know anything about it. Beverage manufacturers and milk manufacturers licensing.
Right, so the point was, they still want to collect these fees, they still want to license people and have the various employees, but it doesn't have to have a fund, is the point, I guess.
Where would money?
Well, they'd still have an accounting unit, right?
Yeah.
They'd still have accounting unit
Mhm.
5390, right?
Right.
It's just they wouldn't have Fund 15.
Beverage manufacturer.
Right, but if we didn't have the fund, and money was still coming in, and they wanted to go to that purpose, wouldn't we have to make sure to appropriate it every 2 years into the right unit? Or they might put it somewhere else.
Well, no, I mean, not if it says, RSA 1234, collect this fee, RSA 1235, spend the fee collected by 1234 in such and such a way, right? I mean, we do that kind of stuff all the time.
What is the reason?
Because generally speaking, with these funds, what's interesting is the ending balance, right? The balance, how it changes over time, how much is there, that kind of thing. But this is one of those funds where what goes in and what goes out is always the same year by year. or at least it is now. Senator Gray.
I guess the reason I would keep it is that they're actually collecting those costs to determine whether the fees are sufficient to pay for the expenses. Okay, so, or at least reasonably. And that would be my first blush at this is, that it would be worth to do that, or we need another way to make sure that we're,
Okay.
so
I
we're
see.
getting those costs.
Right.
And then that, and
So when you were budgeting these costs, you would look at this and say, okay, you're getting 480,000 from fees,
Yeah.
but you're asking for another 200,000 from the general fund. Maybe we should increase the fee or something.
yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
I agree. I think this keeps it clear. And if we get rid of it, yeah, they can still do it, but we're not going to have as much
Okay.
insight.
Yeah.
All right. So we keep
This
this one.
seems to be entirely dairy.
Yeah.
I wonder how many dairy manufacturers are in New Hampshire.
But we do need a dedicated fund statute, or they'll be able to move the money.
Yeah. Not necessarily. Okay. So we keep that one, I guess. Were there other things on here?
Well, mosquito control fund ought to go.
Yeah, that's one on the list.
So that now radiation long-term care fund. No future activity is expected. And I think it never has been expected, but it might happen, is the idea. If there was a blow up in Seacoast.
Say there was something that's low radiation and some way they just dispose of it.
Yeah, all right. Well, no. No, it's Fund 20 he's talking about. So I don't know what page that is.
299. Nothing in? Nothing out.
Yeah. But the idea originally of the people sitting in front of us was that if we had this fund, we could get some federal help immediately rather than having to create something.
Mm.
Because all they seem to be interested in is the power plants, really.
Okay.
Seabrook.
Right. So what it says is this is about decommissioning facilities that take in such waste, right?
Yeah.
And it says
Oh,
each
oh,
one
yeah.
has its own. First of all, there's only one, but it has its own
Contract.
plan and financial bond and that kind of stuff. So therefore, it's never going to use this fund, right? So
That's the thought, yeah.
that's
So we already removed Seabrook itself from the dedicated fund list. That was one of the first things we
Oh,
did,
okay. Yeah. But this is, I think,
because it's audited
right, but,
and inspected.
but this is more like medical radioactive
Yeah,
stuff, right? Like
right,
radiation treatment kind of things, and I guess. All right.
yeah.
Iodine, yeah. Maybe. All right.
Gloves, aprons.
All right, well, we can, some of this was just, we were asking for more information.
Yeah.
And there's some reports we can read and so on. So, but the list, except for the last one, we can put on the get rid of list. Now, should we, you want to talk about your spreadsheet?
Sure. I've done two things in the past. I've done minutes, and the minutes that are here are not, do not include HHS, because I did not have enough time in my days to tackle HHS. I started to tackle Fish and Game. It took me 5 hours.
Mm.
And I couldn't go back to it for a while. I have more time, starting at the end of this week, to catch up. But I haven't done the spreadsheets, which is where I usually try to put the things that I think people need to be looking at, except I have done the spreadsheets for everybody except HHS. That's what.
Okay.
And we had, if you look at the one that Jennifer brought here, it starts with Fish and Game. There are question marks in a number of places. The OHRV snowmobile, Fund 110,
Mm-hmm.
they're seeing revenues shrink a lot as there's less snow, because most of their fees that came in were from the snowmobilers instead of the ATVs.
Mm.
And a bill was passed by the legislature last year requiring them to build a modern database, and it turns out that costs more for them to build and maintain than what they were doing before. And Fish and Game operates on declining budgets anyway, so that's a real problem. And 164, I marked maybe review next year. The fund transfer to their general fund isn't seen in the numbers, and Dana is going to be working with them about it. Fish food was already repealed, but we don't have any access to the 2020 fiscal year 24 on RSAs yet. I don't know who does have access to that. Maybe the Senate gets it, but it's not online yet. And they say, I sent messages over to IT. They walked over to the people who are doing that, and they still haven't gotten back to me with an explanation yet why we don't have 24. My committee got messed up for a while because there was something passed in 24 that the Senate then also amended in 25, and we had no idea.
Are you saying the online RSAs have not been updated
They
yet?
have not been updated since 23.
Oh my gosh.
And so you can't find out what was passed
Oh,
if
wow.
you're in the legislature, unless unless you happen to be in the Senate, because when you pass things, you probably you pass things and then we just agree with them, and people don't note down what it is.
Senator Gray?
I know that one of the people from OLS came over and told me that there was something that was going to be published, and I think it was the end of September or October, but I can check on that
That would be nice.
because the election laws were causing me problems
Yeah,
too, the way they
right.
were in there. But anyway,
Yeah.
I will go ask.
I just noticed that a couple of days ago too. I was looking up a bill in Ways and Means that we had changed. And I wanted to just look at the law. And I thought, wait a minute, didn't we change that? And I went into the bill, bill search and found it. The governor signed it. But yeah, so to your point. it's
Yeah,
not
I
there.
did manage to track down one of the things that but it takes a lot of work, and it takes
Yeah.
having been around a while and knowing where to go.
Yeah, because you just looked at it and say, oh, okay, that's what it is. But it isn't necessarily.
Boy, if they don't have that, they're gonna have trouble drafting new stuff.
Yeah, they haven't started
Well-
on 25 yet.
They have, the OLS people have a different system,
Oh, okay.
okay?
Yeah,
And that's not available to the public because there's other stuff that's in that.
Mm.
And so when they draft something, they're drafting it, as far as I know, out of their own system.
I see.
But
Hmm.
I will ask the new person over there that's running it. I forget his name right now, but to give you a report.
I mean, it's not a good idea to have two systems with the same data in it, right? I mean, that just leads to errors.
well,
Yeah.
we got one system with data and one system with no data.
Well,
Right.
you know what I
See,
mean, yeah.
What happens is that once they do the legislation, then it goes out to this other company, and the other company is what produces the CDs and other things that are distributed, plus the online stuff.
I see.
So that's the reason for the two systems.
Mm.
It's not just because of a whim.
Mm.
It's that distribution that has to happen can't happen,
I see.
So-
with our staff.
So we'd have to buy back the recent year in order for the legislators to,
We'll just wait till it gets online.
I will
He'll find
have,
out.
I will ask that legislative services provide you an update on the updating of the files. Yeah, it could be, because
they didn't even have 24 up there a few weeks ago. But what they've got up there is just on a reference to chapter law.
have you got a particular RSA you were looking at? Because we can go in and just look at it.
Hmm.
Do you remember?
I remember what it was. I don't remember the number.
Okay.
It was something, it was a Lang special.
A Lang special.
Yes, and
Okay.
they were both Lang specials. We got the 2025 one. And maybe the chair remembers. John, do you? Yeah, I spent a month trying to find out why we were talking about something that used to be in the education statutes that got moved over by him to, and with all of your agreement, and it made sense, moved over to another book.
The
And without that one, we had no idea what we were looking at.
list of sections affected is 2023 legislative
Yeah.
changes.
Uh,
So
yeah, that's what I look
That-
at when
that-
I'm doing this. So you have something that is more updated than what the legislators
Well,
get?
Right here. Let me,
Yeah,
that here it talks about that the RSAs are updated to this, but down here where
it doesn't have,
it doesn't have them down here yet.
right.
So again, I will go and ask for us to get
Thank you.
an update. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I did finally, with the help of DRA, which couldn't figure out what we were talking about because she's new and she hadn't had to deal with it before. I did manage to find the place that it had been moved to, and then realized that there was no issue with what was done, amended in 25.
All right. So we can go through these on our own and use this for our notes.
Yeah. This is, as it is, it's a draft, especially comments.
Jen, can you give a copy to
Oh.
Senator Rosenwald? So should we meet? Now, you got to make minutes for HHS and minutes for today, right? That's going to take
Right.
a week, right?
I'll try to get it. I'm HHS, given how long it took to get Fish and Game done.
Okay.
I hope that it can be done quicker.
Okay.
I'm also dealing with the fact that I now have a Windows 11 computer, and they do formatting differently than Windows 10 did.
Okay. But then you and I and Jen can work on a report and
Yeah.
recommendations and things like that. So shall the whole committee meet again in, say, 3 weeks?
That sounds,
October 15th, kind of thing?
that,
Does that work for you guys?
What are you looking at?
October
Sometime
15th?
near October 15th, maybe the 14th, maybe the 16th.
Division
Oh,
one,
okay.
Division two's meeting on the 16th at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
And pre-fiscal's the 17th and fiscal's on the 17th.
What about Saturday the 13th?
17th isn't good for you.
Columbus Day.
That's Columbus Day, yes. All right, the following week.
Well, Tuesday or Wednesday, okay.
Well, but it wasn't good for Senator Rosenwald.
Okay.
I'm not that far, but maybe.
Sounds like
Yeah.
maybe not.
Monday
Or-
the 20th?
Or the 9th, the previous,
Yes.
I've got council on housing stability
I'm leaving on the
after
7th.
that.
Uh-huh.
To the 7th, so,
All right.
uh,
The 15th, you said?
the 13th.
13th.
I could do the afternoon.
So we're meeting on the 13th.
Well, question.
what about Thursday then?
I think we might want a little more time, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, our committee is meeting the 8th and the 10th, so.
Try-
And so I guess I don't have to do preparatory work for it, not much.
Okay.
Um,
So you're saying the building will be open and so on? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
okay,
So the
Does 1 o'clock work for
Monday,
people?
Monday
1
the
o'clock on the
13th.
13th.
Yeah,
It's this same room.
yeah. Okay.
October 13th.
So we will try by the,
Did you say 10?
no, 1 PM.
1 p.m.
So we'll
Yes, some
try,
people have morning.
between Representative Almy, myself, and Jen, to get like a draft report or recommendations or something by, say, the previous Thursday.
Yeah.
And you guys can look at it, and we can discuss it at the meeting and so on. Okay.
As soon as I finish the minutes and the spreadsheet for DHHS, I can.
And
get
we'll send
Jen-
that out to
Jen
everybody.
send it
Yes,
out
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Okay. The main thing is when we send out stuff to everybody, don't reply all.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
can
God,
reply to
yes,
me or something.
Right.
Jim, do you have a couple minutes?
Yes, I have a meeting scheduled with this Representative McGuire in my office. Have-
In your office. and
No,
you all gotta
it
get
could be
your
in this
cars
room.
and leave.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, we're done.
Okay.
Yes.